Hey everybody. So I just got done with my workout and I have a little bit of a drive. So I decided I would chat with you here on day 2 of my 30 days of vlogging about midlife. So my intention here is to share sort of the behind the scenes, because mostly what I've shared on this channel are podcasts about midlife. And I haven't shared a lot about my travel experiences or my retreat/voyages, now I'm calling them. As I explained yesterday, if you watched the video, which I will put up at the end of this one, how I thought it would just be more interesting to talk a little bit about my behind the scenes life, my regular day-to-day life that everybody lives. And it isn't edited. It isn't calculated. It isn't planned. It just is real. No AI. It's just me and you having a conversation. So that is my intention in these next, now 29 days. And I look forward to hearing back from you on your thoughts about this. So what I thought we'd talk about today is asking for permission. So before I started just exclusively creating experiences or voyages or /retreats, even travel for women in midlife, I was a coach. And I coached women in midlife, experiencing that transitional phase that was often and still is. It didn't go away. It's still very difficult for a lot of women to navigate because it's a huge identity shift. And that is challenging. And it isn't just, a day or a week, not even a year long. This lasts for several, up to 10 years for some women. At least that has even been my own personal experience. So I really enjoyed doing that, but as I've gotten older, I'm now 60, and I want to actually create experiences for women to be with themselves enough so that this transition, this transformation that happens in our perimenopausal, menopausal years isn't lost. It isn't ignored. It is a profound initiation in our life. And so often our society sees it as us getting older, and we buy into that. And we sort of go away. We sort of hide. We withdraw. And some of that, I believe, is really needed. I certainly did that before I was in full-blown menopause. I needed to withdraw a little bit and just really be with myself and figure out who I was. And here is the very interesting thing about that journey is I learned that who I was always there. Always. It was always there. The thing is, when we're younger and we're raising a family, we've got a career, and we get into this merry-go-round or even roller coaster ride of living life overwhelmed, overcommitted, we forget that part of who we are. And it's always been there. I just had to give it permission to come back. And here's the thing that I think scares a lot of people is you start to recognize, of course, you're not perfect, and that probably isn't, intellectually doesn't sound too difficult because we all know that, but feeling that and living that is a totally different story. So what we begin to realize is the things we don't like about ourselves are the very things that we have been hiding behind. Hence the reason I'm showing up as is. Right out of the gym. I've done nothing with my hair but tie it back, and I'm on the road. And it feels just so real to me. Yes, vulnerable, but real to me to just talk with you from that perspective, from that angle. So, asking permission. I believe one of the best things that you can do, because it is knocking on your door, even if you don't want to admit it, is paying attention and listening to the parts of yourself you have been hiding behind or hiding from most of your life. These are your fucking superpowers. So, asking permission. I think what happens, and this comes from personal experience, right? Let me speak to my own personal experience. When I got married, I was working as a full-time nurse, and I hardly ever saw my husband because he was also working full-time, and he worked even more hours than I did. And then I got pregnant with my son, and I went to part-time. I stayed home with him for several years and decided that I needed to get back out into the workplace. So I went back to part-time. I never went back to full-time because we did not want him raised exclusively in daycare. And it was great. It worked out great. Until my job changed and I decided to open my brick and mortar Pilates yoga studio. I did that until the lease on the building that I was in expired, or had, come to the end, and I decided I didn't really want a brick and mortar studio and employees and all of that anymore. So I decided to just stay home and be with my son. And I never went back to real employment. And one of the things I realized about myself is I was never very happy as an employed nurse. There were aspects of nursing I loved, but committing to an 8-to-5 job is just not who I am. And it took me a long time to give myself permission to admit that to myself. Because of course, I grew up being told that you should always have a job before you quit one and go to another, and you cannot be jobless. And there was just no other way. It was the 8-to-5 thing, and there was no other way to live in this world, or at least that's what I was told. Until, of course, I got older and I realized that that's not true. But it is still held very highly in our society. And I would just never let myself have permission to even admit that that was not who I was. Of course, when I opened my studio, there was a part of me that realized that, yeah, that's true. I don't want to go back to full-time. But I was pretty committed to the studio, so I was working a lot. But it was mine. So then, staying home with my son until he graduated from high school, I still did not go back out to the work world. I opened my own business. I was, of course, coaching, as I said. I was also teaching yoga teacher trainings and leading retreats, which I absolutely loved. After I stopped teaching yoga and yoga teacher trainings, I still did not go back to work. I continued being a coach, and I expanded upon that. Here's the thing. My coaching program changed me so much because I wanted to get to know myself again. And essentially the coaching program gave me permission to do that. And I learned about A, who I was, and B, who I was becoming. And standing firmly in that aging process was very scary. It was very difficult to admit some things to myself. And perimenopause was hell for me, physically. So I get it, ladies. If you're in perimenopause and you're experiencing heavy bleeding, emotional turmoil, maybe you're gaining weight, maybe you don't have any resilience or endurance, and all of these things are happening to you. They are real. But I truly believe that they are trying to wake something up inside of you. And the more that you resist that, the more miserable you'll be. So giving yourself permission to be who you are, of course, experience that transition. I know that not every woman hits it really hard, like maybe I did, or maybe you're experiencing, but let yourself feel it and listen to what is underneath the message that your physical body is trying to tell you, because that is the truth of what's going on. Your physical changes are trying to tell you something about yourself, because the body always knows first. Always. Always, always, always. It always knows first. You can feel the message way before your mind picks up on it. The trick is, are you willing to listen to the message, or are you going to ignore it? And that's it. That's certainly an option. And I certainly know people who do. They just want to live the same life they used to live, their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and they're not willing to step into this next phase of their life with joy and happiness, freedom. That is got to be the number one thing that A, I think about, and B, I practice being. And that doesn't come without resistance from people I love, for sure. So it does take patience to step into that freedom, because I'm not willing to step on everyone I love to have what I want, but I'm not willing to give up what I want because they don't see me as that person. So it just takes a little finessing, it just takes a little patience, and most of all, it takes giving yourself permission to be honest with who you really are, who you really want to be, and what you're willing to do to be that. And it doesn't mean that your life needs to fall apart to have that. What it does mean is being completely conscious and aware and present to what is happening within and honoring that. So giving ourselves permission to be who we really are and stop hiding behind who we were when we were younger, who we were when we were raising our children, who we were when we had a career that maybe we really dislike now. Maybe we still love it. Some women do, and that's great. But I also noticed in them when I coach them that there is this call, this deep, vital spark within most, I'll say, women in midlife who know that there is something more waiting for them. And I'm going to speak really briefly about that within me. So I recently have considered closing my business altogether. The online world is so big. And now that AI has really stepped into, well, you know what? I don't even want to go down that path. But the online world is so big, and what I've realized is women my age, or the women that I really want to create relationships with or travel with, create travel experiences with or for are online, but they are not talking. They're sort of hiding behind the camera. And I really believe that they're searching for something. They're looking for other women that can hold them, that are like them and experiencing some of the same things that they're experiencing, particularly this spark of, I know there's more, or what's next. My life isn't over. Who am I now is one of the biggest Googled questions that women my age ask. And there are multiple ways to figure that out, right? I'm just going to suggest that one of the ways you figure that out is to travel, to experience the world, to be with, in community with other women who are experiencing some of the same things. I think women coming together are super, super powerful, and not in a way of performing or having to be anything but themselves. At least that is my desire to create and hold space for women who want that very thing. It lights me up when I find women who want that, who want to be held, they want to be real, they don't want to hide anymore, they want to dance naked by the fire, they want to skinny dip, they want to just let go a little bit because they've been holding things together for so long and they're done. And I just want to make it really clear when I talk about that your life does not have to fall apart to step into this next phase of who you are, to make it happen. It does require a lot of honesty, and it probably will come with changes in many relationships. Some of those relationships are women's marriages. Some of those relationships are friends. Some of those relationships are people that they work with. I think it has to happen for us to be our best selves. And it has nothing to do with who the other people are in your life. It has everything to do with who you are becoming, your new identity, and living your life how you want to live your life, as who you really are. So, you're going to see in the next 30 days some of the things that I have given myself permission to do that I never would do before. Part of that absolutely is solo travel, and I do a lot of that. And I create excursions or experiences for other women to do that because it is so powerful. You feel like you don't trust yourself very deeply? Solo travel. If you're afraid to solo travel, follow along, because I will be sharing my next travel experience that I'm so excited to go on. And here's the thing, I'm going no matter what. I hope you'll come along. So, day two of 30 days. Here I am, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow on day 3. So before I sign off, here's one thing I would like to ask of you. Would you leave a comment below telling me and the world just one thing that you're no longer willing to ask permission from anybody about? have to do to be. One thing. You can even put one word in the comments. But I want to hear from other women who are experiencing these same feelings, because I know that you are out there. I just want to hear from you. All right. See you tomorrow.